And at this moment, then it's going to talk Klaus. Klaus,
unfortunately, you have to listen to me again.
Thank you very much.
Because my colleague is sick, and he is very sorry and give his regards, but he has a high fever and cannot participate, which of course is very, for him, really not being able to take part in the final conferences he is really sorry for. So I will try my best to give his presentation. Of course, we discussed the contents. Marco mentioned previously that he learned a lot through KINDRA. I did the same, and part of it is related to this: how do we analyze research trends and gaps? Trends is rather easy, but how do we actually comprehend the gaps? How do we investigate what kind of tools do we use, etc. And that is something which is actually it's not that easy. So fortunately, we also had the chance to hire people, actually research librarians. So the three people after me are actually all research librarians, which we had the opportunity to hire for some months, helping us out with different kind of tools. How do we actually approach this problem? So you will see some illustration, and you have seen some already, which actually were provided and developed in tools that they suggested for us. So, quick outline of the presentation. First, I will say a few words on the scope and objectives of the gaps and trends analysis, a bit about the methodology and the tools, and then show some examples from both our EIGR database and the Scopus database, and try and discuss a bit how can we use it both for the gaps and the trends analysis in KINDRA, and then finally come up with some observations and conclusions. There will be a lot more in the report. It's a huge amount of data, so there is a lot of information actually to gain from looking closely into that. So for the main scope and objectives of the gaps and trend analysis, for the gap analysis to disclose knowledge gaps and research needs, for instance, relevant for the implementation of the water framework and groundwater directive. And for the trend analysis, it's to disclose how knowledge and research have evolved over time, of course, especially before and after the adoption of the groundwater directive, so you can assess what kind of impact it actually has on European groundwater research. We talked a bit about already the methodology, the keyword identification, the classification system, and EIGR, and the 3D representation of these. And we will try and use that for both the gaps and trend analysis in the following. So here you see one kind of plot which we are able to produce within this tool, BOSS Viewer. It's a new bibliometric tool developed by this Niels Van Eck and Ludo Waldman at the Center for Science and Technology Studies at Leiden University. And we were also so fortunate to have them involved in the interpretation of the data, and they kindly offered to do some help and analysis also with the VOS viewer tools. These plots you see here are the density maps, or heat maps, as one of our librarians are calling them, on top for the EIGR resources, and at the bottom for the Scopus resources. And in the Scopus resources you will see many more keywords, because they will actually also include other keywords that the 200 we have located. I think we saw this before, that for the EIGR resources distribution, it's primarily within climate, environment and resources, and it's actually also the same for the Scopus data. We also saw this one, and this is just to remind that what we see plotted on the VOS viewer plots, and also on the bubble plots, is this subset of data from Scopus, which include at least one keyword from each of the categories: societal challenge, research topic, and operational action. So there will be more than 60,000 in these publications in these. And here you see a comparison of the climate, environment and resources societal challenge from Scopus to the left and EIGR to the right, illustrating, as we also talked about, this bias that in EIGR, EIGR was populated by geologists. So, but you can see that actually there's quite a lot of groundwater research going on in all the natural science, major natural science disciplines. Here's again the heat or density map that we are using for the gap analysis, and in the VOS viewer density plot, yeah. Here on EIGR data, the 2,178 records which we are looking at here, and it's easier to get an overview and actually look at where are the different, the relation between the different keywords, and so the red areas are the most, the hottest topics, you could say, research topics. And here they are for the Scopus data, and it's actually seems to be very much focused on aquifer and groundwater resources. Here's another type from the VOS viewer called a network map, and it's a co-occurrence analysis, so it links keywords that appears together. And the further they are apart, the larger the less frequent they appears together, and of course also the number of links is indicating what kind of keywords are actually related. So these were plots that we are using for the gaps analysis. Here we show some that we are using for the trend analysis, and we actually managed to provide this plot showing it's from societal challenge, again the climate, environment, resources, which is the largest one, have the most publications, and this plot indicate that this is the increase on the number of publications within the past. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's the number of publications. It's the amount, the relative amount of the publications published within the past 5 years of all this 20 years of. So it's between 41 and 47%. So between 41 and 47% of the total publications are actually published within the last 5 years, indicating that we have definitely a large increase in groundwater research. And that's it's the same, actually, more or less picture for all the different kinds of research areas. Here's another way to try and grasp it. As we do not have that many resources in EIGR, it's more difficult. So here we try and analyze them before the groundwater directive and after the groundwater directive, and see if we can actually locate some changes in popular research areas. And we can do the same for the network maps. It's difficult to see here, so we need to go with us. It's just to show you an example of how they will look. And here we have, this is one of the plots that actually the developer is helping us with. It's if we want to look at what are the different countries' contribution to the specific research areas. What are the most popular research area in Hungary, for instance? And the red ones are the most popular. It's the percentage of the total database, which is actually conducted or published in Hungary. So it seems that, for instance, the keyword flow is actually studied quite a lot in Hungary. And integrated management. So besides the Bosch viewer possibilities, there are also different kind of tools related to Scopus. There's a tool called SYS, where you can actually do different kind of benchmarking and evaluate groundwater research in different and compared countries, researchers, regions. So here is an example of there's not a standard called groundwater research in cyber, but there's one called water science and technology within environmental sciences. And you can see here that it's nice to see Europe and the EU is in top, produces most publications, and North America actually includes both the USA, Canada, and Mexico. So we are doing quite well in Europe as such compared to them. But you also see how fast China is developing in groundwater research. So it will probably not take that long before they are in top. So the water, and these are all water science and technology publications, and these then groundwater is part of that, but here is the groundwater publications are extracted alone in another search. So to say a bit about the research related to groundwater, to the EU policies, here the Water Framework Directive. It's publication since 2000. You can see that it's increasing quite a lot, and you can see that United Kingdom is in top, and which is a bit, so we are sorry for you are leaving, but I'm sure you will still collaborate on groundwater research in the future. So United Kingdom, Spain, and Germany is doing quite a lot on research in that area. If we look at the groundwater directive, or maybe I go back, you can see that here's there's a total of 1,381 publications during that period, while for the groundwater directive it's only 103 publications. And well, that is not that strange, because the groundwater directive was introduced in 2006, the water framework in 2000, but probably more important, the water framework directive has a much broader perspective, of course, and it's not just groundwater. But here we have Italy in top, Spain and Germany again, with the number of publications. Groundwater and emerging contaminants or emerging pollutants. This is worldwide assessment. There are 747 publications, and United States is in top. But if you add up the European countries in this plot, Europe will be also in this specific topic above the others. And here, especially, well, you do not have that many, Rob, but you have the most cited publication on emerging pollutants.
We have the best. All those American ones just cited.
Yeah. So that's really an indication when a new research area takes off. BGS has a publication from 2012 with I think it's 400 citations already. It's quite impressive. This is another tool of CIDER, and it's comparable to the one in EIGR, and the EIGR one was inspired by this CIDER tool. But actually here also the colors indicate whether the trend is growing or declining. So we can use that also for the trend analysis. This another example of to illustrate where the different research within climate, environment, and resources conducted with the focus on Europe. And this is the word cloud for that. Okay.
Plus 2 minutes.
2 minutes, yes. I think actually, yeah. I'm not sure I will be able to go through all these final observations and conclusions within 2 minutes, but I will take some of them and then you can read the rest. So, general observations on the scholarly output, number of publications. The highest number of publications within societal challenges is for climate, environment, and resources, already mentioned. And it's dominant both in the EIGR and in Scopus. But when you look at the EIGR data, significant research is conducted within all of the societal challenges. The highest number of publications in Scopus within operational actions is for assessment and management. It's the same in EIGR. The highest number of publication in Scopus within research topic is within geography, as also mentioned, in contrast to EIGR, where it's geology. The scholarly output of class 1 and 2 publication in a global assessment is highest for total Europe with EU 28 as second, North America third, and then China according to Scopus. The water framework and groundwater directives are drivers for groundwater research in Europe. But when you look at the numbers, I think there's room for improvement. It's a bit. So observations on trends in groundwater. Groundwater research increases significantly during the past 20 years, and nearly half is within the past 5 years. The increase is highest in China. Research on some issues, emerging contaminants, increases quite a lot for the moment. Observations on gaps in groundwater research in relation to the Water Framework Directive implementation. EIGR has added value by including class 3 and 4 knowledge, which to some extent can cover identified research gap, but population still too small for making strong conclusions, inferences. The method of inspecting intersections of research topics and operational actions for different societal challenges gives insight where gaps may occur, but expert elicitation, judgment on how to infer and apply such information is needed. Emerging contaminants, I mentioned, is a new hot research area. Another one, which is a gap. It also, Elisa mentioned that that there's a lot of variation on how member states establish groundwater threshold values, especially when you have to do it based on the ecological status of dependent ecosystems. And the member states say, typically, that's what I hear. Well, we don't know, we don't have the data, we don't know how to do it. And actually, the analysis show that there are limited number of studies doing that. So it supports that conclusion. And that's what's the last. Thank you.